The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's hump day.
Oh, it's always hump day in this town.
Yeah. I feel like
I got a quick breaking news thing from the House, the U.S. House. The Democrats have started filibustering the confirmation hearings of Judge Gorsuch. And, they're doing something that the House is going to end up turning around and using the nuclear option, which means it'll be by a simple majority. And they really should have thought about this before they did it. They're doing it because when President Obama was in office, he made a nomination and they didn't even give it a hearing. And I understand. But what the Democrats are currently doing is they're putting roadblocks into every single thing that this administration wants to do. And there's always an out on these things. And those outs are not going to be well accepted by the people, nor are they going to be well accepted by the House. Now, we had this happen in Massachusetts because under Romney, the House voted that the governor cannot appoint a replacement senator when they thought Senator Kennedy was going to pass or step down. And then when they had Deval Patrick, they changed the rule again so that Deval Patrick could appoint a senator.
Well, that's one of the problems I think that we have. And this is going to be, I think, the culmination to determine one very, very simple fact. That is that the government is broken. We really, truly do need another revolution. I mean, we had a revolution when they elected a political outsider. But what people fail to understand or don't want to understand or don't care about is what we talk about all the time on this show, is that you can't change government by just changing the mayor. You've got to change the rest of the government. You've got to put city councilors in with the courage to work for the people. You've got to put a mayor in that's going to listen to the people. This is supposed to be a representative form of government. And now we have the culmination of this process to show the people in this country that our government is totally broken. It has been made by this action abundantly clear that the judicial branch of government is political, even though it's not supposed to be. I mean, I know they don't teach civics anymore, and I think they should. But we on a federal level are supposed to have a tripartite system. You have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and you have the judicial branch. The judicial branch is supposed to be unbiased, non-political. It's supposed to rule on a letter of law. And I know they all say it when they're up for nomination, but it's obvious by what's happening. Every time they appoint a judge, it's an exercise in politics. The left wants a left-leaning judge, the right want a right-leaning judge, and the Supreme Court has evolved into a political body. They're more concerned about the fact that he's a fairly young man, and he will be on that court for a very long time and making a lot of decisions. And realistically, that shouldn't happen. But, I'm definitely not I'm not Pollyannish by any means. I'm a pragmatist. But, the fact is that I disagree with lifetime tenure because this is what happens when you give somebody lifetime tenure. They can throw their objectivity out the window and make some rulings that will impact this nation forever. And the actions of our government in Supreme Court appointments during the Obama administration by not giving someone a hearing, and someone now under the Trump administration being blocked by a filibuster, shows that there's something innately wrong. Our government has evolved into a monarchy that doesn't care about the people. All they care about is getting back to Washington so they can play their games again and have gridlock and get nothing accomplished, regardless of what their citizens want. Look at what's happening even on the political front. The health care bill didn't go through. Why? Because half the Republican senators went back and they were going to get lynched by their constituency. So they turned around and said, oh, well, let's just shoot it down, because my priority, when I got back home, I realized that if I did this, I wasn't going to get reelected. So I will do what my constituency wants to a point, because then I can go back to Washington and live like a king, get great health care. Even though I can't fix the health care for my constituency, I'm going to have the best health care in the United States and a great pension and all the other benefits that go with it, not having to abide by the laws of this land. You have your own, and be fundamentally a monarch. So, I mean, if this isn't, if Trump being elected, a political outsider, I don't know what some people thought. They actually thought that the president could do whatever he wanted, because it doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. That's one of the reasons that I couldn't understand this craziness about, Trump's going to destroy the country. Look, this country is so, this political system is so bureaucratic, is so unyielding and unwielding, that fundamentally nobody can make any radical changes, because it just won't work, because you've got too many factionalized groups within parties, within Congress, within the Senate. It's just, this is ludicrous. Now we're going to make this as you said, Massachusetts, of course, we led the way, like we did with the revolution. When we had Deval Patrick, the Democrats in a Democratic-controlled House changed the rules. When a Republican governor was in, he couldn't do it. We'll change the rule. Then we'll go back. And what we do is we change the rules every time we go back. Now they're going to use a nuclear option, which probably means that from now on, every time there's a nominee coming from a president whose party is different, there's going to be a filibuster. We're going to deal with the nuclear. This is just,
Well, here's the thing.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's just crazy.
Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, he spoke for more than 13 hours to block this pick. And he actually spoke for 15 hours Tuesday and Wednesday to protest President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee. The record is held by Strom Thurmond, South Carolina, in 1957, who spoke for over 24 hours to deny civil rights to Afro-American communities, individuals.
But he stayed in Congress till he was 100.
Right, exactly. And this is why I don't believe in these. I believe there should be term limits everywhere. But our House and Senate in Massachusetts didn't want that, so they made sure that they got the League of Women Voters to strike that vote down by the people. The people said we want it, and again, the monarchy says you don't have any rights, shut up. And so did our courts. So, the record speaking, like I said, Strom Thurmond. Now, here's the thing. They want this to be held off until Friday, when the House and the Senate go into Easter recess. But the nuclear option may be used, which means a simple majority will confirm him. Here's the problem with that option, and the Democrats and the Republicans better understand this, that this will permanently change how nominees are ratified, how they're confirmed. And here's why. It gives the minority party no rights. Right now, that's the Democratic Party. But remember, If you get a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, then it becomes the Republican Party. So while they're trying to do this, it's creating a problem in the future. The other issue is this, and I want to get the quote properly. The Republicans do have enough vote to utilize the nuclear option, but both sides are taking a stand, and they don't want to change. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said, send it back to the president for a new nomination, a new nominee. Okay, that's fine. Send it back to the president for a new nominee. What if you don't like the next one?
The same thing.
And the next one, and the next one. Okay? If the parties want to work together, they have to come down the line. Okay? We see it in Massachusetts every day because we have a Democratic majority always. Always. And the Democrats are the ones that didn't want to institute term limits. The Democrats are the ones that have stopped it. The Democrats are the ones that appoint the Supreme Judicial Court nominees and the people who sit there
who
do
ruled
everything
in
they
favor
want.
of not giving term limits. Yeah, the judges who were appointed by politicians made sure that the politicians couldn't get booted out
Exactly.
because of term limits. So,
Right.
I mean, if that isn't an example of what's broken, and I'm glad you brought up Strom Thurmond, because there is, to me, one of the most vivid examples of what is wrong with this perspective that, you know, who we elect as president is like the most important thing, because look, we've gotten through some really bad presidents and some, you know, and we've had some really good presidents who couldn't get what they wanted accomplished. But the fact that Strom Thurmond, as you said, spoke for over 24 hours in a filibuster on civil rights and stayed in Congress for fundamentally his entire life. I don't know. Did he make 100? He was close to 100. I know that. He was well into his 90s, and he was still getting reelected virtually by acclamation every single time down there. You know, and it's just, to me, it's just incredible. Here's a person that was obviously a racist. You know?
No question about that.
He didn't want to grant, you know, rights, and he filibustered, you know, and made it very clear he didn't want to grant rights to minorities. And he stayed in Congress for his entire life. That's what's wrong with the picture. It's kind of like in Fall River when you get the people that have been in city council for 25, 30 years, and they get elected because they used to groom dogs, you know, and they used to do this, and they were part of a club, and they get enough money and votes to slide in for year after year after year, term after term after term. You know, that's what the people have to begin to understand on all levels. Local level, we can affect the change more rapidly. State level, i.e., you know, look at not one of our state representatives had opposition. Not one of them had any opposition. It's not in the best interest of America. And we can segue that back into one of our favorite topics, the charter. This is why I am so vehemently opposed to making it more difficult to run for public office. Because I think the more competition, the more debate, the more ideas, and the more honest you keep the candidates. You know something? It's too bad that nobody ran. You know, nobody ran. And, you know, somebody should have run. I mean, I understand a Republican Party, but we have to get some independents to run. But, you know, I understand a Republican Party kind of says, look, Fall River's an absolute, you know, it's a toxic waste dump. You'll never get a Republican elected, although we did years ago. People forget that we had Margaret Heckler, even on the you know, on the federal level, you know, and we've had Republicans at one time. And
Fall River used to be a predominantly Republican community. Okay?
Yeah.
And what happened was that the gimme status took over, And Democrats started running wild, and they started giving everything away.
Yeah, and a lot also had to do with gerrymandering, too.
Yeah.
Because remember, Heckler was from Newton or something like
Right.
that. So the district that she was in had Fall River, but it also had a lot of the more affluent communities where people voted, you know, they tended to vote for people from the affluent communities. And but what happened then is once they get in power, this is what happens. Just like they did with the term limits, that what they do is once they get in power, they do everything not to represent you as a taxpayer and a voter. They do everything they can to stay in office. So what they do is gerrymander the districts so you can now make sure that your demographic base is basically your district. You're not going to run. Now, you look at what happened now. You look at our state reps, who have they got? You've got, you know, the only kind of Republican area that's even in our reps are the ones, is the one in the east end of Fall River that includes Westport.
Right.
And so you've got a lot of...
And of course, Carroll's district,
Yeah, with
which
a
is
little bit of,
Sonnet and
yeah, a little
Freetown.
bit of a sonnet. So once you get into those areas, there are a lot of Republicans in Westport. And
Right.
actually, when Kathy Ann Viveris ran for office in Westport, a lot of people don't realize she ran as a Republican.
That's right.
Then she came over to Fall River and switched back to a Democrat so she could run for city council, and then didn't take the job. So there is political duplicitousness at its best. So, you know, this politics is all about, and it's showing now on the health care bill and on the Supreme Court appointment, but especially on the health care bill. All these senators went back, and you saw town meetings where they were almost getting lynched. People were throwing stuff at them. They were screaming and yelling. And they went at the, look, they panicked. They did. They went back to their constituencies, and they said, these people are going to lynch us. And guess what? They had the worst nightmare in the world. I'm going to lose my ticket to nobility, to be part of the noble class. These people are so upset they might actually vote me out.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go back to Washington, and I'm not going to do anything too radical, but I'll just make sure this bill gets squashed so I can go back and say, you see, I took care of you.
That's right.
Even though they didn't replace it with anything, but they did something, because the only thing that politicians fear is not being elected.
Not being reelected, that's it. Well, you know, a little while back, before the rebranding campaign was kicked off, we spoke about it here.
Yep.
And we said that this RFP, that this whole thing was written for one person. Well, guess what? It's out there. The guy who got the contract wrote the contract. So, you know, according to reports in the Herald News, the Fall River branding consultant helped write the RFP. Driving in this morning, Radio Pravda had its phone callers coming in, and only one person said, no, you know, they should have helped write the RFP. Isn't that like giving the fox the keys to the chicken coop?
Yeah, well, that's what really boggles my mind, because, you know, they say it's not illegal in the state of Massachusetts. And my question is, why not?
Right.
Why not? Why isn't it illegal? Why? Politics.
Right.
Again, politics. But their perception, they say you shouldn't do it. Well, you know something? It should be illegal, because if I'm trying to get a city contract and I'm friendly with the mayor and I'm sliding the money under the table and I'm giving him the maximum contribution every year, and he says, oh, by the way, we're going to have a nice big fat contract. He said, but I got to open it up for bids. But you know something? I'll tell you what, you write it. And then you write a contract and say, well, the contract has to, the owner of the company has to be 5'11", have blue eyes, weigh 172 pounds, and coincidentally, those are your statistics. You know, I mean, this is absurd. You got somebody who wrote a request for proposals, and they tailor the proposals to fundamentally fit their resumes. You know, and again, you wonder why we're always angry at politics. It's because politics has one real objective: to grind the taxpayer into powder, because they don't care. They're telling you right here, They don't care if they write these bogus contracts where people don't do the job. You know, $50,000 contract to steal everything from everywhere. They stole it from a bank. They stole it from some girl. And almost about 85% of this branding campaign was plagiarized from other sources. And then you got the real estate guy. So you know something? I mean, if you don't get angry with this and stay angry when you see stuff like this that comes across our desk every day, I don't know how you don't lose your mind.
I'll tell you, what makes me laugh is that we spoke about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the zombies, here come the zombie words again.
That's it.
Okay, they started vilifying us. You have no basis in this, but hey, I guess because we can read, we have no basis for what we say. You know, and the problem that really scares me more than anything else is the fact that these people are so blinded by this charismatic individual, and he is very charismatic. You have to, you know, he knows how to put two words together. Granted, it's BS, but he can put it together and he can sell it. And that's what politics is. Okay? It's to write the script of BS to sell it. Now, you said something earlier about we don't teach civics anymore or social studies. And you're right. And yesterday, I had the privilege of giving a presentation with another gentleman, Mr. Ryan Levesque, over at Holy Name School. And we asked the question, what do you consider the most important class, the most important subject that you want in your education? And you know what the answer was? Civics, social studies. They want to know about the history. They want to know what we did. They want to know where we're going. And these were kids. These were 5th, 6th, and 7th graders saying this. But Dr. Malone, pay attention, because you don't want to teach our kids this. So they got to go to a Catholic school to learn it.
Well, that's intentional. The dumbing down of students is one of the best ways to control a society. It's either through fear or ignorance. And the reality is that, you know, statistically we've seen that. We've seen the average vocabulary go down 20,000, 25,000 words over the past 20 years. They don't read anymore. They allow these alternate languages to be used, like, you know, Ebonics and whatever, you know, and even in our government, we don't teach it anymore. We don't want people to be informed. We don't want people to understand, and especially history. I mean, the history of this nation, how it was built, how this government was formed, and then teach people how the government, you know, if we teach them how it's supposed to work,
we might get it.
well, they're going to realize it's not working.
Yeah.
But half the people in this country, I mean, every once in a while they have one of these things on television. They have some reporter asking college students, not 4th graders or 3rd graders, like, do you know what part of the country Utah's in? And they go, oh, that's down south, isn't it? Do you know what the capital of some of them don't even know the capital of their own state.
I know.
And it's appalling when you see that. And these people are in college, and it's like, how did you manage to get to college without knowing how your government works? And, they probably couldn't pick the United States on a world map.
I just received a couple of questions. Why would you bring up what these kids want? Why? Here's why. Because this is what they want. This is the future of America. And what we have right now is a bunch of idiots in this city. Yes, I called you idiots, that are going to follow blindly a child who does not know what's going on, because obviously he's only paying back his friends. Just look at the fact that the rebranding campaign was written by his friend, who then turned around and got the contract. And all you zombies are walking around going, oh, Jazel is God.
And didn't this guy go to PC? Didn't this guy go to PC with them?
Yes.
Did he graduate in the same class with them?
Well, actually, we also have another development going up down on Alden Street that's been taken over by Starr, the gentleman by the name of Matt Starr, who went to PC and graduated with the mayor. And now there's a question of, is it being done according to the law? I've received several questions on, has the lead abatement been done properly? Has the asbestos removal been done properly? Has Joe Bisco received the certificates? So I'll be asking that question too, because if it hasn't been done properly,
Yeah.
why isn't something happening?
Well, stop asking. That's what your answer. Your answer to that question will be stop asking questions.
Exactly.
But to answer that, whoever wrote wrote us just texted us that why are you asking children? Well, it's a sad commentary. You're right. We shouldn't be asking children. We should know enough what to teach children.
That's right.
If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. If you don't understand the government that you're expecting to control your life, you have no idea how it works, and you have no desire to learn, you're right. We shouldn't be asking children if they want to learn civics. We should be teaching them civics as a
Exactly.
required subject, and social studies, and geography, so they actually know that the United States doesn't border Czechoslovakia. So, I mean, this is, and when they see these things on television, it's not Greek to them, because, this is part of what happens to a nation. You unravel it by making them, ignorant of what they should know. And that's something that is, to me, fundamental. You go to college, you got your core requirements for your bachelor's degree. Whether you're going to be a nuclear physicist or not, you still have to take English so you can actually, write. You still have to take some basic math. You still have to take some humanities to make you actually a person that has an ability to think outside of a single track and make you a more critical thinker. And, to even make that statement, why are we asking children, rather than being upset that these subjects aren't being taught, shows that maybe you are actually part of the problem, not the solution.
And that question was a random question that came up because we were doing a leadership program and a speaking program.
Yeah.
Now, the problem I have is that just with this rebranding thing, if you're not going to ask questions, you're not going to get the answers. And when you get the answers, if you believe them blindly, you're the fool. And right now, the people of Fall River are the fools because you're following blindly. When you have people who are running for city council and you ask them a serious question and you say, do you support the actions of the current administration and why? And what would you, as one voice of 9, do to change the tenor of the city council? And you don't get an answer. That tells me that you're going to make a crappy city councilor because you cannot answer a potential constituent's questions. And that's your job. So as a candidate, if you're already not answering the tough questions, you're not going to get my vote for city council.
Well, that should be a prerequisite. You should always ask people who are running for any office what their platforms are, what they think about certain issues that you are concerned about. Like, if you're running for city council in Fall River, you should ask everybody if they're happy with the way RFPs and the way business is being done, entering into contracts without funding them first and putting things out of order. So as we said, stay angry. There's plenty to stay angry about. And remember that,
And more importantly, ask some questions. And don't follow blindly, because not everything is the truth.
That's right.
Stay angry. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great day.